Welcome everyone to Sports Business Network, and this is our speaker series. And today we have a great guest on the show, Don Saladino. Don is the founder of one of the most exclusive personal training studios in all of New York, and Don is sought after by Hollywood executives, Hollywood elite, CEOs of companies as one of the most elite physical trainers, personal trainers in the entire country. Welcome to Sports Business Networks, Don.
Dave, love being on. Thanks, brother.
You're one of our first guests, so it's great to have you on here.
Thank you.
One of the things that we want to do with Sports Business Networks is we want to talk about careers, advancement, business networking, building, all of those things. Let's start with this. When you came out of college, how did you get into this career? Was this something that you always thought and said, I'm so passionate about this and I'm going to become a personal trainer?
Yeah, it's interesting because my career has gone so many different directions since. So yeah, where I committed to training for, God, I think probably the last 23, 24 years up until, the pandemic. And then I did a complete pivot with everything that I've been doing. But when I graduated college, I didn't really know about personal training. I didn't really know that you can make a living being a coach. And I would just refer to a coach as someone who's teaching high school sports, but I didn't really understand the market that there was out there. So when I graduated and I found out about this, I then went in. I remember getting my first certification, going off working at a big box gym, and then really I'd say grinding at a big box gym for the next year until I rolled off and started my own training business. And at that point, that's when 5 years later I decided to start opening gyms, and I got into the digital business. And even now, like I've, decided not to reopen Drive last year after my 15-year lease expired. And we launched fortunately a very successful digital online business, which is donsaladino.com. And that's been, something I never imagined my career getting to, but it's just, you got to adapt with the times.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things. I think we've seen a lot of people coming out of COVID. We had to pivot as well. We were doing in-person events and we couldn't do the in-person events anymore. So we had to go to digital. And that's why we created, Sports Business Networks. And not only are we digital, but we have our own app now as well, which all the folks and the members will be using. Great job in pivoting. How did you make that decision though? That's a tough decision to go from, being in the gym business where you had a gym for all these years and going digital only.
Yeah, well, I think March, I remember the date. It was Monday, March 16th, 2020. We got the we got the sign from Cuomo that we weren't able to reopen, and there was a lot of, everyone was really upset. And I remember my wife and I, kind of assessing what the next few months were going to be like, and we decided that we were going to launch a bodyweight program, but we were going to give it for free, because I already started getting phone calls from every publication. So it was that Monday night, I found out at 8 o'clock. I think my wife and I literally sat up shooting content. I literally wrote this program Monday night, and which took me a few hours. It was a 4-week program. And then we went into my living room. We cleared all the furniture out of the way and we shot video for hours. I think we shot like 60 different videos. Lighting wasn't great, sound wasn't great, but it didn't matter. And then when every publication reached out to me asking for a workout to give to people during tough times, I said, I'm just going to give you a whole month. And they were like, you're going to what? Like, that's your bread and butter. Like, that's how you're going to survive. Why are you going to do that? I'm like, I'm not going to charge anyone for it right now. Me cutting off and giving you one bicep workout, like what the hell is that going to do? Let's really try and add value, and let's really try and help people out during these times. And we didn't even realize it, but I think in that next month, we collected like 150,000 emails, right? From just people flooding in. And then they were like, oh, we know who this guy is now. And then when it was time to, I guess you want to say monetize and start a business, we turned around, we realized we had this great database on top of what we built over the last, decade plus. We then realized that we were able to do something pretty special. And then, then you start assembling the team, and then you're looking at, what we're doing from a revenue standpoint in comparison to what you'd have to do to, make the same amount of money in a brick and mortar location. And then you start scratching your head and saying to yourself, is this really worth it? And you're saying that in the first few months. But I actually got lucky where my 15-year lease expired May of 2020. And so we paid the landlord in full for March, April, and May, and we couldn't move the equipment out till September. We were trying to negotiate a lease with him, but he was, much more optimistic about the city returning from a fitness standpoint than we were, and we were actually right. He wasn't right. I think even now, gyms aren't. I have friends of mine that own gyms. They haven't come back. So, it was a good move for us. But it's been a lot of work. I mean,
well, the gym space was hit as hard as anyone during COVID. I mean, one
terrible.
of our former guests who will be back on Sports Business Network was Francesca Schuler, and Francesca is the CEO of InShape, which is the largest chain of gyms in California. And they had to go through an entire restructuring. I believe they went through a bankruptcy as well, because of what was going on. They were completely shut down in California. They couldn't do anything.
I can't tell you how many conversations I've had like this. I mean, I speak for Perform Better. Half of my friends are gym owners. I was just at a wedding with gym owners and fitness professionals, and everyone's going through it. And it's still tough. It still has not returned fully. I don't know if it will. I think what happened over the last 18 months was, I think people really gained this trust in training at home, where in the past you had the gym goer who was showing up 5 days a week, who was like, oh no, I'm only going to get a good workout when I show up to Soul Cycle, or when I show up to a specific spot, was forced to have to make it happen at home. So what does everyone do? They all end up getting some equipment. They end up buying a pair of power blocks or getting a Peloton, and they start creating this little hub in their house where now they're realizing they can be more successful. So I love gyms. Like I love going to gyms, but I'm building a 2,000 square foot barn in my backyard right now. It's going to be done in 2 weeks, for the simple fact is I want a commercial grade gym in my backyard because I need it to shoot content, and I don't want to have to go to the city anymore. But people are getting creative and doing things like that. And will gyms fully restore? No, it's not going to happen. It won't. I mean, I've had this conversation. I can't tell you how many people, the individual who's showing up to the gym 6 days a week may go 3 and may train at home now 3, because they're realizing they could save 20 minutes each way. They don't have to shower there. They don't have to pack a bag. Sometimes they just need that extra time. So I don't see it restoring to 100% anywhere within, I would say, the next 2 to 3 years at least.
That's crazy. We, as you may or may not know, we partnered with Spartan Races and their CEO, Joe DeSena.
I know Joe well.
Joe's a great guy, and he believes in, you can get a complete workout in with a kettlebell.
Yeah. And I believe that also. Joe and I were actually part of a deal together years ago called the Body Wrench. And I've known Joe for years, and actually was on a call with him a month ago. And what he's done with Spartan Races is incredible. But he'll be the first one to admit that the pandemic did not help him out. But he's 100% correct. A kettlebell. If there was one tool I would tell you that you wanted to go on a deserted island with, and there's that one piece of equipment, and there is no best piece of equipment, but I would definitely probably say it was a kettlebell.
Yeah. Joe, I was at Joe's farm in the up in Vermont at the end of August, and we were spending some time together. And it's amazing how Joe has pivoted as well. But one thing that, I see in Joe is he has a passion, and I see the same thing in you. You have a passion. I was recently listening to a podcast with Tony Robbins, and he was talking about the Knowledge Broker Blueprint program that he was running. And part of that program is getting people to find careers and jobs that they truly have a passion in. And he stated a study that they did, 52% of all recent 4-year graduates from college are in jobs right now that don't require a 4-year college degree, which is just amazing to me.
I know. I mean, what's that saying? It's like, is it saying that? I mean, I'm never against an education, but I'll admit, I went off to college. Am I applying many things that I learned from college into my career now? I don't even know if I remember anything from college. Like, you're playing a sport, you're learning how to do your own laundry, you're trying to balance out a social life with getting decent grades. But I can't tell you, like, me owning a brick and mortar spot and me having to apply for a BSA permit and working with architects, and you know what? Missing payroll probably 30 something times in a 2-year span. That's where I got my education, fundraising, borrowing money. I mean, all the stuff that I had to go through, to run around with your tail between your
things
legs.
You don't learn in college.
You will not learn that in college. And I'm not saying not to go get an education. Get an education. You're going to learn a lot from there. but my real education started when I hit the city and when I had to go home to home and I had to start dealing with personalities. And the one thing about fitness, I am more passionate about now than I was on day one. At day one, I was more passionate about that than anyone. I love it. I know how much there is to learn. I know I can continue to better myself physically and mentally from being in this profession. But when you put yourself into the city, into the lion's den, and you got to start going home to home, and you're training 40 to 60 people a week, and you're working with celebrities and personalities, you ain't gonna learn that anywhere. You're not gonna learn that education. You're not gonna
Sure.
gain that education anywhere. And that's really what I think put me in the situation where I am today to do stuff even on TV and virtually. And my education was, cleaning up weights at Equinox back in 1999. It was really part of it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
It's amazing. Well, you've been on the cover of magazines, and part of that is, just like, Joe DeSena with Spartan, is you got to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And both of you, I look at it, and both of you do that. You're in incredible shape. You don't get on the cover of Men's Fitness without being in insane shape, and that just sets the tone for your clientele on a fun scale. And you've had amazing people that you have worked with in the past. Who are some of the most fun people that you've worked with in your training?
Wow. I've been blessed because I probably worked with well over 100 A-listers, like big Hollywood names. Ryan Reynolds has always been my guy. Blake Lively, I call her my guy because she's like I call Blake like my brother, and people don't really get it. We just have that relationship.
Yeah.
I love them. Sebastian Stan, fantastic. Billy Crudup, Liev Schreiber, John Krasinski, and Emily Blunt, two of the greats. These people have just been, they've just been so good to me and in my career, and they've done so many things for me to help catapult me into into a different stratosphere and what it is that I actually do. And I'm so grateful. Even now I'm getting messages from them. Proud of you, keep it up, see what you're doing. It's like, it really means a lot. And you gain a good relationship with them. But throughout that whole journey with them over the last 23 years, I had a really simple formula. And my formula was, you have 1 hour, man. It's like, make sure in that hour they're leaving in a better place than when they were coming in, because we're not always going to be able to set PRs. You're not always going to have an athlete run faster that day, but how can you get them into a better frame of mind in that 1 hour? And that has been something that I lived by for almost 24 years. And that's what's kind of led to my success. And, never forget why you're there. Another thing, like, as close as I get with these people, they're hiring me to do a job, and I better make sure I'm showing them I'm still as hungry today as I was, 20 years ago. So simple things that I think people just maybe take for granted and they start losing track of nowadays. Hard work's still a beautiful thing. I still love it. You still love it. That's why I admire what you do. You're always working hard. It's like, there is something important about that. And where a lot of people are just trying to make that quick million, on the internet. It's great if you can do it, but is it really realistic all the time?
One of the things that we are trying to do with Sports Business Network is we're trying to help all of the current student athletes who are in the NCAA. We're trying to help them navigate the next step. We spend so much time as coaches, and as a lacrosse coach, I spend so much time getting the kids ready for college. And then what's amazing is, in my personal career, I've spent so much time working with them while they're in college, setting expectations for them, helping them get internships, helping them find jobs, being a mentor to many of them. But if you could look back now and look at some of these kids who are playing sports like you did in college, what's some advice that you would have for them to find a career that is truly meaningful?
I think you said it already. I think you said, find what you're going to be passionate about. And I'll never forget the words of my mom. I've told this story a million times. I remember sitting in their kitchen on Jennings Road. I'm having a conversation. I'm out of college, 2 months. I'm delivering light bulbs at the time, and working for my ex-brother-in-law. And I remember, turning around to her and being like, I think I'm going to be maybe a cop, maybe FBI. She's like, well, why are you choosing law enforcement? I'm like, because I just can't stop thinking about training and nutrition, and I have to do a profession where I have to be fit. Like, kind of why I wanted to be a professional athlete, not only for the sport, but the gym was just something I obsessed over. I played Division I baseball, but at a certain point, the focus turned to weightlifting. It was bizarre. And she's like, well, aren't there these trainers? And I said, yeah, but I don't think they make any money. And she just shook her head. She's like, you've been good at everything you've ever done. She's like, put your head down, run at it like it's the be all end all. You're gonna make a career out of it. I know you. I get the chills talking about it.
You're giving me
And
chills.
no, but I literally I remember signing up. There wasn't iPhones then. I remember going on I don't know what the hell, newspapers or whatever it was, and I found a certification course called the East Coast Training Institute, where I actually had to go take a course for like 6 months. It was actually a good training course. I don't know if it even exists anymore. And then I remember getting in the car and driving through the city. I think it was a couple days later before I even had the certification. I didn't know. I threw a suit on. I had my resume. I didn't know uptown from downtown, east versus west. I was literally driving around. There was no Google. There was no MapQuest. There was nothing. And I remember just seeing a New York Sport Club pulling off, an Equinox pulling off. And I made a list of places that I was going to try and find. A Crunch pulling off. They were opening Reebok Sports Club up on Central Park West, pulled off there. And then finally, I got hired at an Equinox, and I decided to go there. I remember coming home with my purple shirt and being like, I'm going to clean up weights. And I remember going in there, driving in, commuting for a year, having to be in, getting the early bird special at 5:30 a.m., parking for, $13 for the day. And I'd have a gap during the day, but I had to do the evening shift. I wasn't getting home till 11 p.m. So I had to be in the car 4:30 in the morning, not getting home till 11 p.m. Yeah, I was taking a nap at Equinox. I was cleaning up weights. I was training. And then after a year, I went off, opened my own business, and it was awesome. It's like then out of nowhere, you have a 22-year-old kid moving into the city at the time, making some good money. I was making, well over 6 figures a year as a coach, going, holy shit, traveling, meeting people, and just meeting this clientele. And then one thing rolled to the other. And it wasn't this steady climb. I mean, it was like my career was like, it was just like this big graph, where
I think
a
lot of people don't understand that. We've had other people on the show who we've talked about, and they look at successful people and they say, "Oh my God, they've had this straight line, of success," where they don't realize all the downtimes when you're not making. You don't think you can make payroll because money is that tight, and having to make decisions just to keep everything afloat.
I had Calvin Klein tell me once that he was walking on a beach with his daughter, holding her hand when she was, just walking, thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I don't know if we're going to make it. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do if this doesn't happen." Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein to me is probably the most recognizable name in the world. Everyone knows what Calvin Klein is,
Sure.
right? The founder of Tommy Hilfiger. These guys, Joe Horowitz, a mentor of mine, who started Tommy, was a lot of the business behind what Tommy did. Like, these guys were sleeping underneath desks for 2 years. I mean, when you start hearing that, and I can go on and on, I can't even mention certain names of people. I have stories like that about every single person that I feel like that found this level of success, this like level of stardom when it comes to success. Not like, oh, I make a couple $1,000,000 a year and I'm comfortable. I mean, big success. Every single one of them, I think at a certain point had to look at themselves in the mirror and go, if I don't do this, what am I going to do with my life?
Sure.
And that to me gave me a little bit of comfort. It sounds sick to hear, but I had some rough times at Drive. I mean, there were days we didn't know if we were making payroll. We had Con Ed shutting lights down on us. We're going, what the hell are we going to do? I was in there for 15 years. This wasn't something where it was like, oh, 1 year of tough work. No, it was like 13 years of like really uncomfortable going to bed every night saying to yourself, are we going to make it in a week? And when you have to go through that, you start putting things in perspective. No university, Harvard's not going to teach you that. There's no university that could teach you that. So at a certain point, you got to do what you love, but you also have to be willing to take some risk. Otherwise, just work a 9-to-5 job your entire life. If that's what's going to make you happy, that's fantastic.
But it's got to make you happy, though. That's the thing.
Got to make you happy.
Now, I was recently talking with Francesca Schuler, as I mentioned. Fran is the CEO of InShape, and one of the things that she was talking about is how many athletes are coming out of college and they don't look at the fitness industry as something that they could be great at. And here you are being an athlete. What would be your recommendation to athletes coming out and maybe getting a foot in the fitness industry?
If they're worried about money, I know fitness people who are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Like this is not an industry where it's like, oh, banking, I'm going to make a better living, with like, there's a group of fitness people in the industry right now that, they're not trainers, they're fitness entrepreneurs. Where like I've partnered up with 10 different brands that I might have equity in, or I might be, teaming up with daily. That's why I hardly do the training anymore. I work with some of the celebs. I love that. I'm passionate about that. I don't want to ever let that go. But there's so much opportunity in this industry now. It is so exciting. But I believe to get there, yeah, it's probably a good idea to go clean up weights at an Equinox, or become a trainer, or turn around after a year and go, oh wow, does this suck? Like, these shifts are terrible. Like, I think we still need to go through that. I think kids still need to go through that to understand what that ladder looks like that they need to climb. But don't sleep on the fitness industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's one of the fastest growing industries. It's one of those industries too, though gym businesses got crushed. You start looking at the virtual businesses that are doing, 10, 15, 20x that they were doing before COVID. I mean, it's impressive, and there's a need for it. And, fitness isn't going anywhere.
Right.
There's things in the markets that we all worry about. People are never going to stop worrying about their health and wellness. And there's a feeling you get from going out for a run, or getting a workout, or coming in, those endorphins pumping. That's something that, that's never going to be replaced by anything else. So, my niece, Catherine Farrier, who I'm so, obviously, Catherine well, and I love Catherine, and she's showed such a high level of success at her college, but she just got a new job, and she's going to be working for Nick Leopard, who's got an incredibly successful business going. She went and she interned at a company I'm partners in called K's and Vector, and they're about to put out this incredible device that weighs about 4 pounds. It's a travel gym with tubes that hook into your door column. Fantastic. She interned. The CEO of the company called me up and goes, if I can replicate this woman, I would. And she was able to but she had an opportunity to do something in the fitness industry. She found something better, and I'm excited about that. But there was an opportunity for her to do something there, and she thought about it. It just wasn't for her. But there is a lot of opportunity out there that I think most people aren't thinking about. Times have changed a lot.
Sure. Now, where do we see Don Saladino in 5 years?
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, I've got all my online platforms going right now. So I've got my subscription platform going for about 6 years now. I've got my challenges, which have just blown up over the last 18 months. I'm selling programs globally. I've been working a lot. I've been consulting with a lot of companies, and I've been having a lot of fun doing that. And in a way, I'll always continue on the fitness path. But this marketing piece has become a lot of fun for me. So it's been interesting to really kind of blend in the fitness and the business and to all of this. I'm flying out to Seattle in about 2 weeks to give a business talk. I'm doing a lot more of those now. So, you know what? Did I have a business plan at one point? Did I start at the finish line? Absolutely. It has taken so many turns at this point that I'm working hard. I've got a good team working over here right now. We're all really excited about it. And, I can focus on what I need to focus on today. And there's so much opportunity being thrown at me. Who knows? But I think when I stopped trying to control the outcome and started having some fun with my work, and that took me to about 18 months ago, is when I really started seeing this level of growth. I wake up every day now, I'm excited to work, and it's fun. I'm not worried about a 90-minute commute into the city, or, oh God, I gotta trek home at night, or, oh my God, what's gonna happen with my landlord today? I wake up and I'm excited to work. And that's all I can focus on right now.
That's amazing. It's exciting times. Well, listen, Don, thanks so much for being on the show. We're going to end up with one last thing. You already told the story about your mom and the advice that she gave you, but is there any other piece of advice that you've ever gotten that has really stuck with you that you could share with us? A great piece of advice.
Yeah, and actually it's from someone that wasn't a big influence in my life, but he's very respected in the industry. His name's Pat Menachia. Owns a place called La Palestra. Pat actually offered me one of my first jobs. I ended up not taking it, but I remember him just looking at me, and I kind of rolled my eyes when he said it, but he said, be patient. And for some reason, it's always like just sat in my head, those words. There's probably a week that goes by that I don't think about him and those words. And I think what happens is we want everything so quickly, even social media. Oh, you know what? I'm posting right now and I'm not getting the likes on it. Post because you're trying to better someone's life. Post because you're trying to add value to an individual. Think about the person who may not have access to the people that you have access to, and try and improve their life. And if you focus on that, that's a good business plan, especially if you're going to be a coach. So my advice to anyone is be patient. You're going to go through a lot of ups and downs. We've seen it in the last, couple of years. Whoever thought we'd be in a pandemic wearing masks and we'd all be stuck at home? God, who could predict
No one.
that? No one. So yeah, so I just think you got to be patient. But you summed everything up on the first 5 minutes of this call. It was, you got to have a love and you got to have a passion. I took Tony's UPW. I went to his, I think it was his Unleash the Power Within down in Orlando, and just the amount of positivity and I loved his message, and I loved everything he kind of stood for at that. And I think that was a really important lesson for anyone who is in college. I feel like every university should send their students to see that for 3 or 4 days. I feel like that would make a big influence on them. So, but Tony talks about the love and the passion he has for everything, and that's invaluable.
Well, as things get back to normal, one of the things that we want to plan is we want to plan an annual convention where we bring in people like you to speak and have, guest speakers where they're going to pump people up. It's going to be a combination of job fair, business networking. People get to do business with one another, find out about other people, but also get pumped up. I don't think there's enough out there where you got to get pumped up. You got to recharge yourself to take on the world.
I'm in if you need me. Say the word. Happy to help.
Well, listen, Don, thanks so much for being on the show, and we appreciate you, and I'm sure you'll be on again. So, keep up the good work. Where can people find you? So if they want to find more about Don Saladino, I know it's donsaladino.com, but how about on Instagram and social media?
Yeah, just go to Don Saladino or donsaladino.com. Don Saladino is the Instagram handle, but all my whole link tree set up there, and you can find out about everything that I'm doing. And I try to answer as many messages and questions as possible. I get a lot of business questions and a lot of career path questions, and I'm always happy to answer them. But if I don't get back to you immediately, it's nothing personal. It's just it's a volume thing. I'm trying to keep up with it. It gets a little tough sometimes.
I can imagine. Well, Don, once again, thanks so much for being on the show. This is Sports Business Network. This is our famous speaker series, and you just spent some time with Don Saladino. So thanks, Don, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, brother.